Are you ready to master the Marauding 1 pull and consistently hit 950 mobs an hour? Let's go. Talents. Improved Frostbolt is great for pulling some of the mobs in this farm. Elemental Precision is not needed for this farm, but having this allows you to go into Zul'Gurub and you will be hit capped on the Crocolisks and Tigers without any hit on your gear. Improved Frost Nova. Frost Warden for extra armor when ice armor's up. Permafrost because it's ridiculously OP. Improved Blizzard for our Blizzard slows. Cold Snap. Pierce and Ice for a small damage increase on Blizzard. Frost Channeling. Arctic Reach is a very important talent, giving us extra range on most of the abilities we use in this farm. Ice Block. 3 points in Cone of Cold here really don't do much, but we need to put more points in to get to Ice Barrier, and this is the best option. Ice Barrier, which will be a lot of your survivability in here. We're now stepping into the Arcane tree, and we're going to put 3 points in Arcane Focus and 2 points in Arcane Subtlety. These points really don't do much for us, but we need to progress to the next stage of the tree. 5 points in Arcane Concentration really isn't needed for this farm, but having this in your build allows you to jump into Zul'Gurub and farm the 11 pack pull without respecking and be very comfortable in there. This strategy heavily relies on magic absorption. When you get to the kill spot, there's going to be a lot of imps shooting poison bolts at you. When you resist these, you're going to regenerate a lot of mana, and if you play the imps correctly, it's literally impossible to go out of mana. Arcane Resilience gives us a small armor boost, which is quite nice to take. Magic Attunement is extremely powerful for this farm and reduces the damage you take from the poison bolts. With this talented, your Ice Barrier will take longer a break and you'll be able to sit and cast blizzards for longer at the kill spot. 2 points in Arcane Meditation are the final points we take. I pick these up mainly because it's quite nice to have if you go to farm Zul'Gurub. Gear. The gear requirements are very low for this farm because Blizzard doesn't work very well off spell damage and you get loads of mana back at the end from the imps attacking you. Greens and blues with high stamina and intellect would be perfectly fine for this farm. Don't be afraid to try this farm out with lower gear. Having better gear will just give you a cushion and a safety barrier to stop you dying if things go wrong. The Mage Tier 2 5 set will be extremely powerful for this farm. It increases the radius of your AoE spells. If you have access to this, use it. Aim for a little bit of nature resistance in your gear set. I run with around 30 nature resistance unbuffed. With mage armor on, I think I go up to around 52, so the requirement is very small, but this is going to help with resisting those poison bolts at the kill spot. The glowing Brightwood staff can be a really nice option if you can pick it up cheap. It's a BoE epic with high stamina and high intellect and a little bit of nature resistance on it as well, so it's perfect for this farm. But any weapon will do at all as long as it's got high stamina and intellect. Make sure that you enchant whatever boots you're using with minor run speed. This is insanely important and it allows you to outrun the pack. One item that I've absolutely fallen in love with recently is the Life Stone. The main reason I choose to use this is for the passive health regeneration that it gives. If you make a mistake at the start of the pull and end up losing a chunk of health, the Life Stone can really help to passively regenerate throughout the course of the pull and you'll get to the kill spot with full health, full mana, ready to blast. It's not an item that's required, but it's something that I've really enjoyed using lately. Consumables. None of these consumables are required at all. You can 100% do this farm without popping a single potion. That being said, everyone makes mistakes when it comes to mage farm and nobody does it perfectly, and having consumables ready can sometimes mean death or life. Troll's Blood Potion. Just like the Life Stone, the passive health regen is amazing, and if you make a mistake early, you won't feel it a couple of minutes later into the fight. Swiftness of the Zanza. This is obtained through Zul'Gurub. Once you are revered with them, you can hand in Zandalari honor tokens to Zanza and complete his quest, Zanza's Potent Potables. Some people really like to use these potions, so try them out. Swiftness Potions. I really recommend bringing a few of these if you come to try this farm. The basilisks that you pull at the start can silence you if you get too close and get unlucky with positions of patrols and packs. This is the best way to get out of range of them and get back to safety. Small nature protection potions. Right now these are very cheap to make and I like to pop one of these at the beginning of the run every time. The security that these potions bring is immense, and it means you don't need to worry too much about where the imps are positioned at the end of the pull when you go to kill. Mana gems. I like to make a mana citrine and a mana ruby for every pull and use them during the pull. When you are boosting a group of players, get them to stand at the very start of the purple entrance. They will get XP there because it's right next to the kill spot. You need to head to the waterfall portal entrance that takes you into the princess side using the Scepter of Celebras. As soon as you get into the dungeon, get your buffs up like Arcane Intellect and Ice Armor, and also use a Nature Protection potion now if you're planning on using one. This means your other potions will be off cooldown by the time you get to the pull spot. This is my run and how I like to pull it. Remember that every run will be different depending on how long you've taken to get from the fresh reset instance to the first pulling spot. The patrols will be in different places and you're going to have to react accordingly. That means that certain situations it can be very beneficial to save abilities like Counterspell for those long instant pulls. I will mention at any stages where it's nice to hold an ability for an important scenario. Follow this path that I am taking to get to the pull spot. Start off by pulling the Rock Elemental pack and then work your way back through the room pulling the Deep Borers. Try and make sure that when you're pulling these packs they all join together at the same time and create a nice tight stack. Continue pulling all of the Deep Borer packs and all of the Rock Elemental packs on your way back to the Basilisks. Focus as much as possible on keeping the pack nice and tight. The tighter your pack is, the more successful you're going to be when you get to the kill spot, and all of these little moments compound up together during the pull, so try and keep it as clean as possible. I was lucky here not to get stunned by one of the Rock Elementals, but I played it risky because I did have my blink ready in case there was a stun. When you get to this Deep Borer pack, try and take the widest corner possible. To do this, run as far as you dare to the edge of the wall and then blink in the direction that you want to travel. Doing this is going to create a really nice flat line of mobs that will move towards you and end up nicely stacked. Always try and save Counterspell for this situation here. We blink forward and take a Blizzard on the pack to help gather them up a little bit more and to get some damage on all of the mobs to prevent them from dropping aggro and resetting further down the instance. Because we've got Counterspell available, we can jump slightly to the left and pull that Rock Patrol pack that just went up the ramp. So at this stage we've pulled everything on the princess side that we're going to pull. Focus on blinking ahead of the pack so when you get to the ramp you can get some nice blizzards on the pack to help them group up and get some more damage to refresh the aggro table. At this stage the mob train is going to walk through the hydras and pull some into your train. You can pull extra ones if you want as well, but they don't offer more XP than the standard mobs, so they're more hassle than they're worth, to be honest. Cast a blizzard on the pack here. I don't sit and channel a full blizzard, I go for around 2 to 3 ticks, and that's because we're going to need the distance on the later part of this room, and if you sit and channel a full blizzard the mobs get very close. Work your way up the ramps in this room and pull as many Deep Borer packs as you can. This is the only room in here where we're not concerned about making the mobs flush into the pack nicely. I like to pull all of the mobs in this room as fast as possible so we can get to the last Deep Borer pack before the train gets there and our blink is a lot safer. If you spend too much time pulling in this room, you will get to the last pack and the hydras will meet you and they hit very hard, so be aware of that and try and be as quick as you can here. Make sure that you're holding on to Counterspell for that last Deep Borer pack. Turn on the pack and take a blizzard on the ramp here. The goal here is to get all of the hydras in the blizzard so they're grouped up and ready to nova when we jump off this lip. Make sure you've got an ice barrier up when you go for this nova. Ideally you want to cast it before you do your blizzard on the pack. That means it's going to be off cooldown a lot quicker. At this point it's absolutely imperative that you don't just run ahead and not look at the pack. You have to turn and look at the pack. Walk into that corner of the ledge makes the mobs group up really nicely, but it doesn't push them further behind. You need to be careful that the mobs aren't going out of sight of you, otherwise there's a chance they're going to reset, so be really mindful of this and don't get too far ahead. At this stage we're using a lot of AoE abilities to pull mobs into the pack, so you need to be really careful not to hit the sisters. They have a really strong physical ranged attack that chews through your ice barrier, and when you get to the kill spot it's going to cause some serious issues. That's speaking from experience. After you take the blink here, turn around and get a blizzard on the pack. The goal of this blizzard is to do a little bit of damage to the slimes to stop them from resetting and also to push them into the pack a little bit more. There are 2 satyrs on the right here that you can pull with an arcane explosion. Just hold your blink and do the blink afterwards. I felt like the train was a little bit too close for me, so I decided not to go for them on this run. Once you have pulled the 4 trees, get ready on the ledge to pull the satyr pack. When you drop down from above, you need to be careful that you don't aggro the pack below yet, because we're going to be taking an evocate and blizzarding on the pack. The last blizzard that you do will hit the imp of that satyr pack, and that will then pull the whole pack into the train. This room right here is the best opportunity you're going to get for a wide corner. When we drop down, you're going to see how stacked that pack is, and we haven't even gone for a regather yet. It's amazing. Hold the blink for as long as you feel safe and you'll get them stacked up really nicely. When you land on the ground here, turn and get ready to cast a rank 1 blizzard on the whole pack. If mobs run through, don't panic, just be confident that they will get hit by the blizzard eventually. It's just server ticks and spell batching that cause them to get hit after they've moved out of the blizzard. It's absolutely horrible and I wish they'd fix this, but just be confident within your blizzards and trust that they're gonna hit. After the blizzard, start gathering up these 3 trees and take them over to the satyr pack. You'll see that I got 1 tree reset, and that's because I moved away from the tree too quickly and wasn't hitting him enough. You've got to really babysit these mobs to keep them in the pack. I used the Swiftness Potion here, but I definitely could have gotten away without it. Never ever blink when you're down in this bottom tunnel. You will more than likely get mobs reset. I made a big mistake in blinking here, and you can see that I stopped to try and let the mobs catch up to kind of counteract that chance of resetting. If there are mobs below, as you pass over the tunnel, you have to blink over the top of them. They can hit you from underneath while you're above them, so beware of that. The pack is already grouped up really nicely here, so I only went for 1 blizzard as to not drag the pull out any longer. Pull the remaining mobs and then head up to the top ledge when the imps are. When you jump down off this top ledge, the mobs that were at the front of the train are going to have to move backwards, tightening up the pack a little bit more. At this stage, really make sure you've got dampen magic applied because you're going to take a lot of hits off the imps. We're going to do a lot of waiting for the train here because we don't want to get too far ahead of the mobs and risk any resetting. This is a perfect opportunity to bandage up and regenerate any health you're missing. Continue back through these tunnels and pull the last satyr packs. You're not going to get another chance to regather, so make sure when you're pulling these they are nice and tight into the train to keep everything ready for the kill. You've also got a nice opportunity for a small wide corner here, so take it if you're comfortable enough with your pack distance. Don't blink in this tunnel, and now's your chance to check your buffs. Make sure you've got mage armor on ready for the kill. Make sure dampen magic's up and you're ready to blast. When you go for this first blizzard, your positioning is very important. If you're too far to the left, the Hydra will be able to attack you from underneath when it feels like you shouldn't. The Hydras have an increased attack range, so be really careful of this. A good marker of where to stand is in line with the hollow of the branch that we use to change the mob's pathing. When casting your blizzards here, make sure you're always casting on the front of the pack. The aim for your first set of blizzards is to make sure that the whole pack is grouped up and slowed before you move on to the branch. Before I cast my third blizzard, I moved over to the left slightly to line of sight the imps and move them up the ramp a bit. Unfortunately, on this attempt I moved too far over to the left and all of the imps came up into the pack. That means for the rest of this kill, I'm going to have to be very careful of where I place my blizzards, as we don't want to kill them all, we do need to keep some alive and giving us mana back. At this point, I'm really happy with the grouping of the mobs, everything's nice and tight. So instead of casting long blizzards, I'm only going to cast about half of a blizzard and move as quickly as I can to the next ledge and do exactly the same again. I find that casting half blizzards here instead of full blizzards helps keep the pack under a lot of control. If you're quick enough in getting to the next ledge and casting your next blizzard, the whole pack is still slowed by the previous blizzard slow, and it makes it so much easier to control and you do a lot more damage to the pack and get them down quicker that way. As you can see, I'm being really careful with my blizzard placement. I don't want to finish off the imps that are left, otherwise I'm going to run into mana problems. As I mentioned previously, the hydras have an increased attack range. That means that we have to jump to the further branch on the pillar, otherwise the hydras will be able to attack us on the closer branch. Certain races really struggle with jumping from that far branch straight onto the ledge, so I've developed this little tactic running down and jumping up to the standard ledge and then jumping up onto the rock ledge, and I find that works really well. As you can see there, I got really unlucky as I jump and the Hydra glitched out for a moment and regenerated 50% of its health, but it's not a problem because the pack's nearly dead, so we're just going to solo this one up and finish it up. So this wasn't a perfect run, and it took us 15 minutes and 29 seconds. The mob count was a little bit lower than usual, and I think that was likely because I took that blink in the tunnel, and we lost around 10 mobs because of that. We got 71 kills on the deep borers, which is a fantastic amount, and they can drop some high ticket items like the edge masters. We also got 15 kills on the noxious slimes, which is great, because they're notorious for resetting, so it proves that this method is good for holding onto the slimes. If you're boosting a full group of players here, it's going to take around an extra 30 seconds to loot up all the mobs with their help, providing they're not AFK. So that takes us to 16 minutes, and it takes exactly 1 minute to run from the loot spot to the instance again. So that's 17 minutes exactly for 268 mobs. Let's round that up to 270 mobs. If we divide 270 by 17, so that's 270 mobs by 17 minutes, we get 15.88. Let's multiply that by 60 for an hour's worth of farming, and that comes out at 952 mobs an hour. If you were consistently pulling 280 mobs every run, you'd be hitting 988 mobs an hour. Tips and tricks. Focus on keeping a tight train of mobs. Wherever possible, be mindful of how you are pulling the mobs. Most of the time during this pull, I am running past a group of mobs, then looking back and instant casting them into the pack so they join up neatly. This also helps to keep your ice barrier fresh. Wide corners. These are one of the most powerful things in your marauding toolkit. Simply doing this alone above anything else will make your runs a lot easier. Recovery. The more consumables you are willing to use will aid your recovery when you make a mistake. It's a much better idea to just go for a regather if your kill isn't going very cleanly or if you make a mistake and fall down. Dying on this farm really kills your mobs per hour and also kills your motivation as well. Dampen magic. Whenever you're approaching the kill spot and about to run through the tunnel, check your buffs. Make sure you have good time on dampen magic, make sure you have fresh shields, and make sure you have mage armor up for that resistance against the imps. Imp control. When you figure out your own blizzard routine and get comfortable controlling the imps, you really start to see clean and successive runs. When I go for a line of sight on the third blizzard, my goal is to get around 60% of the imps into the pack so they will die naturally to blizzard. If you leave them all, they're going to really delete your shields, and if you kill all of them, you're going to have mana problems. Make sure you have rank 1 versions of pulling abilities like Fire Blast, Frostball and Arcane Explosion easily available and ready to press for the pulling stage. Add-ons. Getting a weak aura for your ice barrier lets you know if it's worth recasting another one. I really suggest getting this. Download the add-on Weak Auras, and then you can import the Weak Aura string from the website Wago.io. Djente is a nice add-on that allows you to build a custom destroyables list that with one click of a button will destroy trash items that aren't valuable. You set up the list so you get to decide what gets destroyed with one click. Details damage meter has a nice frags system built in. This basically allows you to see how many mobs of each type you killed in a run. Simply change your details damage meter to frags to see this. Kill track is a brilliant add-on that tracks the amount of mobs that you've killed. You can mouse over a mob and it will show in the tooltip how many times you've killed that mob, or you can type /KT_I to bring up the window that I use to show you how many mobs you've killed in one pull. This is going to wrap up my Mara 1 pull guide. I absolutely love this farm and it can make a ridiculous amount of gold once you build up a reputation as a booster and also get your runs clean. Let me know in the comments below what tips and tricks you've learned, and also remember to subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions that need answered, come and join me on Twitch. I do this farm a lot on stream. The link will be just below. And until next time, keep on blasting.